Sorry, Seema, yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We will be starting the webinar in just a few minutes. Just give us a few minutes. We're just waiting for some more people to join in. While we're waiting for the webinar to start, it would be interesting to know where all you're joining in from. Devesh, where are you coming from? If you could just put your location in the chat, please. Okay. I also see some other people. It would be nice to say hello and just find out where you're joining us from. Okay, Abid, Bihar. What about Neeti? What about Paras? Crystal? Okay. Gaurav has joined us from Gorakhpur, Neeti from Bombay, Tariq from Pune, Paras from Dubai. Interesting. We have a Sumant and a Sabrat. Amarjeet from Gurgaon. There's Sumant as well. Sumant, where are you joining us from? Okay. All right. I think we are ready to go, Pramath, since we have a few people in already. So welcome everyone to this session. It's really a session where, while we will talk about the Harappa School of Leadership and the accelerated management program that we run, but we're also here for you to put out your questions and to sort of ask Pramath, who's been at the helm of setting up some of the largest institutions, higher education institutions in the country. It's a session which is really yours for you to ask us questions, to understand where the market is going today, what are the requirements, what are the skills that we need to survive in the modern workplace and also thrive, actually. Pramath, would you like to start with a little bit of idea and thought behind why you set up an online institution like the Harappa School of Leadership at this point in time?
Yes, Seema, thank you for having me. And I'm so delighted to see the range of geographies that our audience has come in from today. Of course, I'm particularly happy about Buxar because I'm from Bihar and my village is close to Buxar. But then if you look at Buxar being the eastmost, we've got somebody from Dubai, which is the westmost. And if you look at Gorakhpur, which is probably slightly north in latitude from Buxar, all the way to Hindupur in Andhra Pradesh. So what a great mix of folks we have today. Welcome, everyone. Yes, Seema, I've been involved in setting up some institutions in India that have gone on to become very well known. These are obviously institutions that are brick and mortar institutions. They are physical institutions. And to attend these institutions, you have to be full-time, you have to move there, you have to be on campus, you have to give up your jobs, you have to give up life wherever you are to study at these institutions. I think the time has come for us to reimagine education and to offer programs that people can do online. Now, of course, lots of people are already doing that. We are not the first. But my vision here is that just as ISB became a sought after business school, just as Ashoka has become a sought after liberal arts university, just as the Vedika Scholars Program became a sought after program for women who want to sustain working careers, I would like Harappa School of Leadership to become one of the leading online institutions, or a pure online institution out of India, very much like these institutions that are offline, if you will. And I really think there's need for institutions like this, because not everybody can afford to take time off and move and spend 1 full year or 2 full years studying, 4 full years studying. The second is that I also think that education has evolved where you don't necessarily need to do a full-time, multi-month, multi-year program, and it's possible to do that alongside work. And that's why not only possible to do it alongside work, but also try and do things in a little bit of an abbreviated, or just do what you need. A lot of programs are created because you have to spend 1 year, you have to spend 2 years. So you cram it with things that you may not need. And do you need all those things? Do you need a full 2-year program or a full 1-year program? What are you trying to achieve, and what do you just need? The bare minimum. Let's at least provide that to folks and get them started. If they want more, they can always come back. They can always go somewhere else. My life has been a lot like that, where whenever I made a shift, I went from being a researcher to going into the world of business. I just did a very short business program, and I was able to make myself successful in the world of business. I think it's true for many people, not just me. And so part of Harappa School of Leadership and the Accelerated Management Program in particular is to innovate on what has been traditional management education and come up with the next version of what management education and what leadership education really looks like. So yeah, those were some of the motivations for setting up Harappa School of Leadership, and of course the Accelerated Management Program.
Pramath, it would be interesting. Since it's a small group, it would be interesting for us to sort of ask some of the people who joined us in this conversation, what motivated them, or what is the question that they want to ask as far as, say, a management program is concerned, a brick and mortar sort of, or a campus management program, and say an online management program. If anyone has a question here on that, we'd be happy to answer. It might be a good way to say what are the 2 or 3 key differences that immediately get highlighted. One, you've already mentioned that this is a much more compact program, 6 months versus a year or 2 years. Second, definitely the fact that you can do this while you're working. Are there any other sort of things that you can point out, and maybe some of our audience can also put in some questions at this point if they have anything?
Well, Seema, I think one obvious element of this program that is new and distinctive is the focus on leadership, and the focus on the kind of skills that Harappa in general is known for. Some of our audience may know, but not all of them may know, that Harappa is built around making sure that people learn a set of skills that we call thrive skills that can help anyone in any job, anywhere, thrive or do well. This is outside of your expertise or domain skills or functional skills that you may need for a particular industry or a particular job or a particular role. This is something that is universal. Whether you are a corporate person, whether you work in the social sector, whether you are a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher, whether you work in the government or the army, you will need these thrive skills, which we have highlighted and pioneered in the work that we've done at Harappa.
And what are these thrive skills, Pramath? What do you mean by thrive skills? What is it that a lawyer or a doctor or an MBA or a general manager? What are these skills that they all need to do well in the workplace?
So Seema, these are the skills that doesn't get taught to you. These are the skills that you sort of learn through osmosis, organically, through life experience. But it would be great if somebody pointed it out and gave you some tips on and helped you pick these skills up so that you can get started on honing these skills and learning these skills, give you exposure to these skills. These skills are in 5 areas. And we have always believed, and this has been my personal experience, that without these 5 areas, you really cannot be successful. You'll hit a certain limit. You won't be able to go beyond that if you want to be ambitious and successful in life. These 5 areas are as follows. Number 1, how does your thinking work? Are you able to take a situation and read it well, understand it well, look at it from multiple perspectives, organize your thoughts in a logical way when you read that situation, interpret the situation, form an opinion that is unbiased and clear? How do you think creatively and innovatively? How do you think about people, not just about problems? We spend a lot of time thinking about people. Right now, people are sort of hearing me and wondering, what is this guy really like? Is he making sense? Should I listen to him, or is this going to be a waste of time? So thinking is a very important skill, and nobody teaches you. Everybody assumes that you will learn how to think through the education system, but the education system doesn't really teach you the basics of thinking, which I think needs to be taught. The second is thinking for what? Thinking to be able to solve problems. And nobody again teaches us problem solving. Everybody assumes that, hey, if you're an engineer, you know how to solve problems. But engineering education, I did one, got one too, is fairly theoretical. You don't really learn much about the real world. So how do you go out into the real world? And if you're confronted with a problem that you've had no prior experience or training in, how can you solve that problem? Starting from ground zero, starting from a clean sheet. So problem and solving problems is a big part of skills. So solving problems. Third, and everybody knows this one, is really around communicating to engage people, communicating to align people, communicating to influence people, to convince them of your point of view, communicating to build relationships. So I think that's a third aspect, which is communicating. The fourth aspect is being able to work with each other. In today's day and age, in today's world, it's expected that you will get along, that you will help each other, that you will deal with conflict in personalities and in style and in thinking, and that you'll be able to navigate that successfully. It's not easy. How do you do that? How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with different styles, different people? So collaboration is another skill. And finally, the skill of constantly growing and developing and evolving as an individual and as a professional is also a skill. Nobody teaches you that. But at the workplace, people love people who are constantly challenging themselves, taking them to the next level, delivering better and better performance every week, every month, every quarter, every year. So these 5 areas is what we have categorized as areas in which you need to develop thrive skills: thinking, solving, communicating, collaborating, and growing yourself. And within these, of course, we've defined a bunch of micro skills. And we've gone to the very minute detail of saying there are 75 micro skills that you need. And these, by the way, match with what everybody is saying about the future of work, about how the skills of the future will evolve and what will jobs demand from folks. So that's what we call collectively Thrive skills, 75 skills in these 5 major areas, which will help you at whatever you do. Like we started out by saying, Seema, in your question, regardless of what profession, regardless of what role, regardless of what industry, regardless of what level you work at. So this is one major element of the AMP program that no MBA or management program in the world teaches you.
Pramath, we've started our questions, and I think while I'll take Astha's question in detail, but one thing that I wanted to check, and before we explain more about AMP, Astha wants to know, is making career pivots is a very difficult thing. And while we answer the rest of her question later, can Thrive skills help you to make career pivots?
In fact, you need Thrive skills to make career pivots. The stronger your Thrive skills, the more confident you will be that you can do almost anything, that you can take on whatever task you're given. And the stronger your Thrive skills, the more convincing you will be and more credible you will be to employers who are willing to take a bet on you, even if you have not worked in their company or their industry or their domain. And it is tough to make switches because obviously employers would like to hire people who already have experience or expertise in their area. But equally, so many new fields and industries and jobs are constantly getting created for which there was no prior experience, there was no prior education, that employers are being forced to hire people with zero experience or track record in that particular area. So what are they going to look for? Because they know that this person, say ed tech, for example, Seema, while there are many ed tech firms, and they are all growing and they are all trying to recruit people, including us at Harappa, the truth is that there aren't that many people who worked in these areas. So we've always hired people, have been forced to hire people who come from other disciplines. You were a journalist and we hired you. Now, when I hire somebody who's a journalist into doing ed tech, how do I know they will work out? I have no basis other than to say, hey, she has the Thrive skills, even if she doesn't have the domain expertise to make that switch. Whatever problem I'll give her, she will be able to use these fundamental Thrive skills to solve the problem for me, to build a team for me, to be able to communicate for me. Her commitment to her personal growth. I knew that you had also done multiple things in your journalism career. You had made shifts within journalism. You had chosen on your own accord to go and study public policy in another country and give 2 years of your life to do that. So all of those things convinced us that you had the Thrive skills to maybe take even another pivot. So yes, pivots are difficult. And yes, people who think very conventionally will say, no, I want to have people with the right skills and so on. But equally in today's day and age, everybody knows that everybody is pivoting. In fact, it's not just pivoting, there's a name for it called squiggly careers. Now people are talking about squiggly careers, right? You go from one job to one domain, to one function, to one industry, to others. Everybody knows now that pivot, squiggly careers are all standard fare. Everybody's doing it. The best people are doing it. So how do you judge people? You ultimately fall back on these skills.
Interestingly, I think one of our first stories of a AMP candidate has been someone who's pivoted from a completely different domain training to a completely different career. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, interestingly, we have a question from Sonam, who wants to know what is the split in the curriculum between Thrive skills and core business skills. Maybe this is our cue to talk a little bit more about what exactly is the entire offering of AMP or the Accelerated Management Program.
Yeah. So Seema, I don't have the exact figures and maybe you can help me with that, but the broad description of the program is that there are the core business skills, and core business skills typically include the kind of thing that you would learn in an MBA program. So we teach accounting, we teach finance, we teach strategy, we teach marketing, we teach operations, we teach a bit of talent and organization and HR, if you will, which is really what are the core components of any management program.
We also teach entrepreneurship because we believe that today every organization is looking for someone to have that little spark.
Correct.
See how they move ahead.
Correct. So entrepreneurship is also part of that offering. Thank you. So that's a big chunk of the program. And I would say that that would be about 40% of the program in terms of the hours. Now, I believe that today, the core business program needs to have 3 more areas. And you will see over time that this is going to become standard in any program. Today, business schools and MBA programs don't actually do it, but we have the flexibility and the foresight to include it. And those are data science and data analytics. So how do you manipulate large amounts of data? This has become a given. It's like marketing, it's like strategy, it's like accounting. If today you don't know how to manipulate data, you won't be able to do marketing, you won't be able to do strategy, you won't be able to design a good supply chain or set up operations. So data science. The second is that within marketing, we've brought in a greater focus on digital marketing. And the reason is, again, that most jobs today require you to be a digital professional, either in terms of projecting yourself, building relationships, networks, or selling whatever it is that you're selling. It's important as a business person, as a person working in the management field, to understand what are the ways and modes in which you use the digital medium to do outreach, to connect, to build relationships, to build customer loyalty, customer service, and to sell, actually. And the third piece that we have particularly included, so I covered data science, I covered digital marketing, and the third big piece, which was traditionally seen as a specialization but has now become mainstream, is product management. In fact, product management has become a key general management role in companies. That's the point at which all functions actually converge. And the reason is that product life cycles have become much shorter. Products need to constantly evolve based on customer feedback, based on new bells, whistles, variations that you are constantly creating. And so how does that happen in a structured manner so that it doesn't feel like chaotic is a very important field today. And so that everybody needs to understand. So the next element that we have added are these 3 elements. So we have core business skills, and these 3, think of them as additional elements, new elements that we've added, which is data, product, digital marketing. I would say that this would be another 25-30% of the program. And then the Thrive skills and the leadership skills are the remaining 30% of the program, or 40% of the program, if you do the math. So business skills, core business skills, Thrive skills are the two big chunks. And then a third, slightly smaller chunk are these three new areas, which are really part of the business skills area. That's the way the program is structured.
I don't know if Paras is still here, but Paras put a question and I think he has to run. But interesting question. He says he has been taking Harappa courses since 2020. And he's sort of done, the Thrive skills have really helped him to gain confidence. But what he wants to really know is managers don't really understand these skills and tend to sort of judge you on core education. So how do you sort of, how is this course, or how can the AMP program, which is teaching you some business skills, is teaching you, the new age sort of career skills plus Thrive skills, how will it help him to grow in his career?
So Paras, yes, I think if you're working in an organization where managers think more conventionally, or they value much more the core education and your core skills in a particular domain, maybe you're in engineering, maybe you are a technical person in another area, it is true that they may not think about those skills, Paras, but you don't have to convince them about the skills. These skills will help you perform better. And it is through your performance that you need to get them to recognize you. Because even if you are in a technical area, your ability to logically think and problem solve and communicate should yield a greater level of performance or output. You should be able to do better than your peers. Your peers should see you, your managers should see you as somebody who's able to tackle problems better. Your managers should see you as somebody who they would like to go to when the toughest problems they are facing. They trust you to deliver results. They see you as a better communicator. They see you as somebody who works well with people and who's able to marshal resources. They see you as somebody who deals well with customers. So these skills will show up in the results of your work, Paras. And yes, if you go to a manager and say, oh, I've learned these skills, now recognize me. They may laugh you off and say, well, I don't think these skills are important. But what they will realize is when they see the impact of these skills in your work. And I think that's what you have to monitor. You have to see whether you're able to apply the skills that you learn, whether you are able to see that there is actually a marked improvement in your output, in your results, in your performance. And then I'm sure that if the organization is fair, they will recognize and reward you. Now, if they are not even able to see that, then I think it may be an organization that doesn't fit what ambitions and aspirations you have. And maybe you should look for an organization that values that. But I'm pretty sure that it's about making all of this manifest itself in your work and in your performance.
Pramath, there's a question here from someone whose name is not visible, which is basically, what is the vision of AMP? Why are we even doing AMP? What are we hoping that AMP will do?
Sorry, the question you said is?
What is the vision of AMP? What is it that we believe that the accelerated management program will achieve?
I think the vision of AMP, the vision is usually, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, in a few years? For me, AMP is an alternative MBA, a high quality alternative MBA. And it's an alternative for people who cannot, for whatever reason, find the time, find the convenience, find the resources to go and do a full-time MBA. That's what my vision is. And I would like us to believe that over a period of time, this becomes one of the finest courses that are available online for students, not just in India, but around the world. That's the vision for the AMP.
There's a slightly interesting question which is coming from your hometown, Buxar. Abid wants to know that, first of all, let me tell you what Abid's dream is. He says he wants to open a university and a hospital in Buxar at some point in time. He's 24 years old. He has studied in government schools in Bihar, government schools and colleges. He wants you to ask you if he had an option, or if you had an option to choose between YIF, which is the Ashoka program that you also are associated with, and the AMP. How would you make that choice and why?
So firstly, if you ask me, I would do both. And I'm not trying to give you a cop-out answer or a compromise answer or duck the question, and I'll answer the question. But I do think you need both. These are very complementary programs. What YIF does is that it opens your mind. It gives you the ability to, it's divergent. It gives you the ability to look at the world in a different way. It opens up your mind. It opens up perspective. It gives you, it reveals to you parts of what exists in the world in different areas of knowledge that you would have never experienced. Even I had not experienced going to an IIT or getting a very high quality education. So YIF exposes you to that. YIF exposes you to literature and history and psychology and the environment and entrepreneurship and so on. So it's much more of a buffet where you go and you sample and you enjoy the world. You're on a journey. You're going from Buxar to Dubai to Gorakhpur to Hindupur, right? It's the diversity, it's the range. AMP, on the other hand, is a convergent course. AMP is saying, listen, all that you know will now enable you to use this, to apply this, to be very practical with this, in being successful at whatever you do. It's very practical, it's applied, it's related to work, it's related to solving real problems that you face. It's tools and tips and frameworks. It's taught by a lot of practitioners who bring in their rich experience and expertise. So you see, AMP is really about helping you succeed at work. Now, if your dream is to open a university, your dream is to open a hospital, you need both. But if you had to really choose, what will teach you how to build something, to really do something, that's the AMP. What will teach you how to decide between a hospital and a university? What will teach you how to think more broadly about what does the university of the future or the hospital of the future or hospital of the future for people in Buxar look like? That's probably more YIF. So that's how I would choose.
Nicely put, Pramath. Interestingly, I don't know, Asta, if you think your question has been answered, do ping again. But if not, I'll pick it up again. Meanwhile, there is Sonam Taneja, who wants to know what is the average age of the AMP cohort. Sonam, I will take that. We are normally anywhere between 26 to 30 people with 1 or 2 years of job experience, some level of graduation experience. Some of them also come to us with some master's degree or the other. But it's a young cohort. It's really a program for young professionals because we are really helping them to sort of, take that next step in life. Pramath, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think it's a factual question. So I think that's really, I haven't paid attention to the actual ages, but it sounds right. People are in the late 20s large. That would be the average, I would say.
Interestingly, someone else wants to know, do only academicians or academics teach at AMP? No, I don't. I think Pramath has already explained, but maybe Pramath would like to.
No, I'd like to believe that academics definitely have a place, and we have some really good academics teaching at AMP. We have IIM professors, we have folks from international universities who teach, who are academics teaching at AMP. But at the same time, I believe that a lot of wisdom and a lot of learning and a lot of good teaching can be done by people who are practitioners. But practitioners who are trained in teaching, practitioners who can truly impart some learning, practitioners who can truly help build our skills. And so we bring in those practitioners to give people exposure to the practical world. So the way we call them pracademics, combination of practitioners and academics. So we have pracademics teaching, we have pure academics teaching, and we have pracademics teaching. And I think that's the richness of this program. I think, again, typical MBA programs would have a lot more academics teaching. In fact, I teach more at AMP than I teach anywhere else now, because most other programs that I'm involved with are very traditional with lots of academics. And I think that it's important to move away from that.
Sorry, we have a question here from Varun. He says he has 7 years of experience in the domain of finance and sales, rather, and B2C basically. He's currently working as an area sales manager with a footwear firm. And he wants to work more in general management. He wants to look for more strategy-oriented courses. So he wants to know if AMP would consider his profile. I think it would be a brilliant profile, but Pramath, anything you would like to add?
No, he's actually asking that would a pivot to general management and strategy-oriented roles be possible with an AMP?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So I think that's what the AMP is for. And that's what typical MBAs also are for. What we are saying is we've created an alternative for people like you who can't, or for whatever reason, don't want to do a formal MBA, can't do a formal MBA. And therefore, yes, the AMP will enable you to make a similar kind of pivot or a similar kind of shift that you would be able to make otherwise. So absolutely, that's the hope and that's the belief with which we've set up this program. And we are starting to see that happen with people in our first cohort. I think it also relates a little bit to the question that Asta had originally asked about this expectation that people still want a formal institute degree like an MBA. And it is true, Asta, that where people want a formal MBA, they will continue to expect. But what we are saying is, listen, if I don't have a chance to get a formal MBA, then here's something also that allows you to will enable me to make that switch. And we understand that what we are proposing is new and different, and that's why our career and placement support is really about helping you make your case, helping you convince employers with your story, with the merits of an AMP, and to convince them that you've actually learned some of the things that they look for people who are making career pivots. So yes, there are people who think conventionally. I think somebody earlier was talking about, who was it? Abid was talking about the fact that people don't, no, not Abid. I think Paras was talking about the fact that people don't feel the skills, right? And so when you talk about the fact that people still look for a traditional skill, that's true. I mean, when we set up the ISB, people still said, oh, what's a 1-year MBA? Yaar? Ye kya hota hai? MBA to 2 saal ka hota hai. What do we do? What training are you giving them in 1 year? It takes 2 years, right? When you set up YIF for Ashoka, people say, oh, what is the liberal arts? They're not good for anything. Now, those same companies are hiring history majors, political science majors, international relations, and English majors. So these things take time. They take time to change, and people get why. But we are very confident that we can give you the set of skills and knowledge that you will be able to use credibly to convince employers. Am I saying that I'm exactly an MBA? Of course I'm not. 2 years on a campus studying all these courses is a very different experience. But what we are saying is, if you can't afford that experience, if you don't have the convenience, if you can't do that, and it's too much work to do that, you don't want to give up your job to do that, then this is the answer to that. This is an alternative to that. Just like the 1-year MBA was an alternative to the 2-year MBA, the 6-month AMP online with the plus of Thrive skills, leadership skills, and all of the things I spoke about in the content thrown in is a wonderful alternative for people like you.
Pramath, there's another question which is coming from Pimple Shrikant, wants to know that, is this program suitable for me? I have 15 years of experience working in middle management, and he's currently a project manager, he or she, I'm not sure.
Yes, I think so. We have people with considerable experience, Seema, in our classes, and you would find it useful as well. We certainly have some very senior people in our class, and for a lot of them, the work that the material that we are covering is a breath of fresh air, because otherwise, it's expanding their horizons, they're finding it useful. Several people who I personally interviewed and who had one-on-one sessions midfield, whether they wanted to do that, were in your board. There were people who built businesses. There are people who've run organizations or have had tremendous responsibility, 10 plus years and so on of experience. And now they are in the program. In fact, I find they are the most engaged because most likely somebody like you has not really invested in your learning ever since you started working. And so the more senior you are, the more enlightening you will find, the more engaging and exciting you will find our program and our curriculum. So age is no bar. And in fact, in today's day and age, you're all you are probably all half my age. You'll probably live to be 100 years old, given the advances in medicine and health. All of you are going to live longer. You have a long life ahead of you and a long working life ahead of you. So age is no bar. And 10, 15 years of experience, you must be in your 30s, absolutely ripe for doing this program.
There's a question here from someone called Sumant, and I'm not absolutely clear what he's asking. He wants to know if there are any franchise opportunities. Perhaps, Sumant, if you can write to us separately, I'm not really sure.
He may be thinking that we will franchise this program to him. I don't think right now that's a part of the plan.
No, we can't. Okay. Other than that, I think, Pramath, there's another question that's come up from how is EdSol different from programs like STOA and Growth School? Sonam again.
Oh no, now she's asked me a tough question because I haven't really studied the STOA and the Growth School programs. I think our pitch might be similar in terms of the fact that it's online, it's convenient, it's a short program. I would like to believe that this program is more well thought through, particularly given my experience in management education and having set up MBA programs and also set up a Harappa and leadership courses, and also the rich experience that we have of online teaching and what it entails. So I would assume that on the Thrive skills, I think we are different. On the leadership bit, I think we are different. I think on the 3 elements of product, data, and digital marketing, I think we would also be different. We do make a pretty strong emphasis in that area because I fundamentally believe that you can't be a good manager today if you can do that. And I think the last thing I would say, Seema, and again, I don't know what exactly they are doing, but I think in terms of helping you think through your narrative, your story about yourself, I think we can be distinctive. And that comes a lot from my own personal experience in working with young people throughout my life, in helping them tell their story better. most people underestimate. I mean, this whole anxiety about pivot comes from the fact that you also judge yourself harshly and you say, I'm only good for this because that's all I was educated in, or that's all I have done in my life. And somebody needs to look at you and say, no, you can actually do much more. Uh, your skills are actually applicable in many fields. And it's only people with the kind of perspective I have, or some of the mentors and some of the career coaches and counselors that we have, who've helped and who've seen people make these shifts, who have seen that, the domain knowledge is not the only thing, that these skills that you have are transferable from one sector, one domain to another. Only they can help you tell your story powerfully. They can only make you see things in yourself that you yourself can't see. I think that's an area that I think we are probably different and better, I would argue, than any program. And that just comes, maybe you can call me pretentious or arrogant, that just comes from my own experience of having done this and having seen over the years that it's very difficult for others to pull that off.
I would also say, I think the support, I don't think many people realize when we say career office or we talk about, I think it's not just about placements, it's many, many other things. The fact that we help you build your story, the fact that we help you do mock interviews, the fact that we prepare you how to sort of go out there and present yourself. I do think that's an added layer, and that runs in the program from day one. We start it early. We don't sort of leave it till the time you finish the program to sort of focus on that. And I do think that's an added advantage. We also have one of our founding cohort members, Rishit, and he's very kindly offered to put in his LinkedIn and his phone number, say, hey, please go ahead and talk to him, and feel free. I'm sure he'll give you an honest opinion.
I think one of the things, Seema, that we are also very focused on is because we are new and I've always been focused on outcomes. I think what we do is much more personalized.
Yes.
And I think that's an important aspect that I'd like to also highlight. When I feel like I now personally know a lot of our students and I'm personally invested in their success. And I think that's how great programs happen. So I think we are all working very hard to customize the journey of each individual and see how we can help them be the best they can be with their constraints. A lot of our students have constraints, as you know, Seema.
And I think the other thing we do is listen. I don't know, Rishabh, maybe you can tell us. We are listening and we are constantly improving and changing the program or making it more robust to suit the needs of the cohort as well. It's not that, oh, this is on the shelf, take it or leave it. That's the other, I would think, an advantage. Pramath, there's a question from Sabrat Patnaik. He wants to know what is the SOAR and GROW program. I think he's probably seen the US website, and maybe if you have a few words there for him to understand.
I've forgotten our what we call, but GROW and SOAR are two. These are programs that we offer to companies, and I think one of them, GROW, is about sort of middle managers or women. I think these are focused on women. If I'm
they could, yeah, probably, but Sabrat, we'll send you more information and we have your details.
But these are not relevant. Yeah, but they are not relevant to you, Subrat. These are actually programs for our US corporate clients.
These are corporate programs, not.
Yeah. So you can't actually sign up. You will have to check out our programs on the HSOL website, and maybe we can give you the
link.
Link. Yeah.
Interestingly, there's Tariq who's just left a message who says, we don't market ourselves well and managers don't seem to know much about us. And he says, as a team, they've taken numerous courses and they found them great. Thank you, Tariq. Please do consider AMP as well if that's what you're looking at. There's Wangmi here, who's basically a final year student in philosophy, and she wants to know whether AMP is suitable for fresh graduates such as herself who wishes to pivot into the field of social impact communications and policy making. And she has apparently also tried reaching out to you for Nai Dhara. So I'll
Yeah, no, Vagmi, thank you for that question. And I'm trying to recollect our Naidhara connection, but I have a vague memory. There's so many emails and messages I get. So I apologize if I've not responded, but I certainly have a vague recollection. Yeah, I think this program is absolutely valid for you. In fact, several of our learners are looking to go into the field of policy making. Several are working in social impact or want to go into social impact. So yeah, it's absolutely valuable for fresh graduates and for people again looking to work and be able to make that case to employers or future employers that despite the fact that you have a philosophy degree, that doesn't restrict you, and that you can actually work in policy making and that you can work in social impact communication.
Okay, Asta has one more question. She says, we keep hearing about words like digital transformation, application of AI and machine learning across industries. Do you foresee these as must-have skills in the future?
Yes. Simple answer is yes, which is why we have the data piece, we have the digital marketing piece, we have the entrepreneurship piece. And in fact, a lot of our business courses are taught with that digital slant. So the digital transformation is very much part of it. And the data and the product piece is very much part of the AI and machine learning part of it. We are just starting you off. We're not going into heavy machine learning and AI, but we are starting you off appreciation for what would it look like if you graduated from simple data analysis to actually having the computer do the analysis for you and the computer do the learning for you, which is what AI and machine learning is. It's the next generation of data analysis, which is what we get you started on.
All right, Pramath, any other specific things you'd like to point out about the AMP? We're almost at the end of the webinar. Any other questions? We are happy to answer just one or two if there's anyone else with a question. Some of the people who haven't asked anything, maybe this is a good time to put up your hands. Nitish, Prabhat, Pratik, anyone else? Durgesh, Chirag, Bhavna, Amarjeet, anything we can answer for you?
Well, I don't have much to add, Seema, but I think we've covered a lot of ground. I would just encourage everyone to consider having a more detailed chat with our counselors and our experts, and maybe schedule a counseling session. Just have a conversation with us and then decide where it goes. I think it's a program that you'll find interesting and unique. That much I can assure you. I'm personally very vested and involved in the program. And I hope that I can see you in class on our next AMP program soon. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for taking time out, and we are here. There is a link to schedule a conversation if you'd like with our program counselors. And of course, if you have any questions, we're all available on LinkedIn and other ways. Please do reach out and we'd be happy to answer.
Since we are just 5 minutes,
yes.
We have one quick thing I want to cover is that while we focused on the online element, somebody just pointed out that we do meetups and physical meetings, and for the we find that very valuable. That yes, we are largely online, but in major cities we have been doing meetups to get people in, and meet up with faculty, meet up with me, and so on. So that's an important element of the program which we didn't talk about. So
yeah, and also we encourage you to stay together as a cohort, because we give you interventions where you work together. So at the end of the program, you don't only meet each other once in a while. You work together, you develop that skill, and you leave with 50 new people or 60 new people who come from different domains, who then are your cohort mates or your batchmates, plus whatever else Harappa School of Leadership has. So you have that lifelong sort of connect or community to rely on as you move on in your career. All right. So I'll stop here. Thank you, everyone. And as I said, if you have any questions, please do reach out. The link has been placed in chat. And of course, you can reach us at etsol.education online as well. Thank you, Pramath.
thank you, Seema. Thank you, everyone. Thanks
All
for
right.
joining.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.